Hi, I'm Patricia Allingham Carlson, and this is my watercolor painting, Stone Pathway. This is part 4 of 4. In this video, I'm shading and drawing using a lot of work with my fine tip ink pen. I'm adding more trees, which seem to be called for by my composition, and finally solving the compositional problem that was perplexing me about just what it needed. I solved it with adding a shadow. I hope you'll like it and give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe and click on the bell below to see new videos every time I post them. Now let's paint. Up to the foreground stairs, where I come in with some much heavier accenting and more details. These stone stairs were made from old stone. They were somewhat uneven, and that only enhanced the beauty. With this kind of ink drawing, I'm trying to keep the lines somewhat random, not regular, just as a sketchy drawing on top of the watercolor paint. And not adding too much detail. Now I'm working on the tree in the foreground and doing some accent work with the marker or with the ink pen again. This is a fine tip permanent marker pen, and I always make sure I use permanent ink so it will be light fast. Every little branch is getting a shadow or a shaded line. I do an evaluation at this point, and I'm not entirely happy or satisfied with the structural and the compositional aspects of this painting. So I get some more little sticks from the outside, and I arrange them in different ways on my paper. What's going to work here? What looks good? I keep coming back to a stick in the front foreground. And I just like how it looks there. It seems to pull the eye toward the focal point in the center of the stairs. Now logically, there couldn't really be a tree growing from there because that is more stone stairs up ahead. So I made up a little story and said, okay, the stone stairs cracked and a seed fell in, and a tree grew up in the old stone stairs. So, with my little story, I decided I can paint a tree anywhere I want. It's coming from a crack in the stairs. Right up ahead. You'll have to walk around it to get up or down the steps. But it worked for me. I'm using a mixture of brown and alizarin crimson. I figured it was a cherry tree, and cherry trees often have a lot of red in the bark. And my exaggeration of color in this painting is something that works for me because it is sort of a fantasy color painting. So the tree is coming in a dark brownish red. The branches come in and join overhead and almost make a little arch to walk through to go up the stone stairs. I continue to evaluate at this point to see what's needed, what works, and what doesn't look quite right. Here I am softening the branches a bit and doing a little shading on the front tree that I just added. It's close to being finished, and yet to my eye I wasn't satisfied yet. I am working on the foreground tree and the foreground stone and making my accents heavier still. I continue to work on the accents, but I still don't feel that the composition is completed or strong enough. So I'll be evaluating what else I need to do. I try adding another very small tree on the left side to see if that will adjust the composition like my eye is looking for. And then something else occurs to me. The two trees I've just added don't have any foliage or blossoms, and the picture does sort of appear to be a springtime picture. So I'm adding some spatter paint to suggest small blossoms on the branches of some of the trees in the foreground. The spatter paint keeps it sort of random, just like real blossoms would be on trees. Where the spatter falls that I don't care for, I simply blot it off. Now here I'm diffusing some of the strong tree color to make it appear to darken and lighten as with light hitting it. And kicking up the alizarin crimson a bit more on the front tree. So I did figure out what was bothering me about my painting, and that was the large first stone area where people would pause as they climbed the steps. It was too white and too bland. I decided it needed something, and maybe a shadow would work well there. My problem was there was nothing in the painting that would suggest an object to cast a shadow. So I decided to add yet another tree, figuring the light source would be hitting that tree, and then I could come up with my shadow and add the interest that my eye kept wanting to see. So here I'm painting in yet another tree. It's coming off from the side and into the painting from the right. I'm painting it in a way that's sort of broken, suggesting the bark of a different kind of tree. And I'm hoping that will be just what the painting needs to finalize it and pull it together. And here's where I plan to put the shadow. I start with water. I would like the shadow to be diffuse and to appear like a shadow cast from foliage from a tree. So blotchy and filled with light spots. I've wet down this stoop. And now I'm applying purple paint and ultramarine blue paint. Making the shadow come down over the wall and curve around the top. And then go on down and hit that little area of white. So I'm just sort of dabbing the paint on the wet surface and hoping it will flow in a way that looks right to me. And here it flowed on down to the next step. And if I can get it right, that will break up that expanse. And I think that might just be it to finish this painting. As you can see, I'm putting paint down and dampening it and blotting it and putting more paint down. And I'm starting to get the color values that I want, but I continue to want to keep it soft and blurry because it's a shadow. And I want it to be soft. I've deepened it more with the blues, and it's starting to look the way I want it to. Now what I'm doing is taking a little paint off between the branches to make it look like the light is sort of diffusedly shining through there. And softening the edges at the same time. I enhance the new tree with my marker pen. And it's done. I hope you enjoyed my watercolor demonstration of Stone Pathway. I'd like to thank the Facebook page Watercolor Enthusiasts for the interesting challenge project presented to their members. Finding sources for new ideas and challenges offer great opportunities to learn. There's a link to check out Watercolor Enthusiasts' Facebook page in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video series and you'll give it a thumbs up. Your comments are appreciated too. You can subscribe and ring the bell to see all my new videos. And I'll see you next painting.